Patreon.
Hey, patrons. We're just getting the
Merry
wiggles out.
fucking Christmas. Yeah, we're getting the wiggles
Merry
out.
fucking Christmas.
This comes out December 22nd.
So close.
Yeah, I guess.
So we get to talk about the guy that's going to break into your house.
Very good. Very good.
Oh, dude, there's so many. I feel like this was one of those ones where I felt like I got to be like unabashedly myself, where it's
That's
like,
awesome.
I get to make fun of like white people and talk about how ridiculous Christmas, like Santa Claus is, like the idea of Santa Claus, and I get to talk about comic books, and I get to talk about mythology. Shit rules.
Yeah. And as you said, Germanic stuff. We got Norse dude, we get
to talk about Odin.
American commercialism.
It's like all the things. It's all the things that I love to dig into.
It's a cynic's wet dream.
Oh, dude, it's so good. It's so fucking good. Beards, like fucking wizards and shit, like mutant powers, science. There's a lot of science in this one too.
Nice. That's what we do. We're a science podcast.
Yeah. I mean, this is more about physics and all that, the science that we talk about, but
Yeah. All right, sweet. I don't think
did we say what we were doing? We're covering Santa Claus. I don't know if we actually said what we were talking about. We just talked about the guy breaking into your house. We didn't actually explain who he was.
I said it was our Christmas episode, but yeah, I don't think we mentioned we're to title this one. What I really like about this, so using the X-Men thing, this is a Christmas Origins Santa Claus, or Christmas Stories,
which is great.
Santa's Origin, something like that. Yeah,
I love that we're doing that because he is in the Marvel universe.
Yeah, right. Yeah, actually, I knew that one. There's like Squirrel Girls in there too, and maybe they cross paths at some point. But
yeah. Santa's the most powerful mutant in the Marvel universe.
That makes a lot of sense. The guy's got. Yeah. I mean, he was already imbued with powers, and then just got more and more powerful over time. So,
yeah, we're gonna talk about it. He never ages. He teleports, and his power doubles on Christmas Eve.
There was like one of the Christmas songs I was force fed yesterday. There was a line in the song that was something about like he comes down right at midnight, and I was like, there's a 1 minute period of time that is midnight, and he's supposedly visiting everyone at the same time. Are there clones of Santa? Like, I don't.
Yeah.
Like,
he's got 31 hours. He's got 31 hours on the day to deliver stuff. So
yeah, but it says at midnight that he's coming down your chimney. There's a 1 minute window per time zone, and like how many millions of people live in that time zone?
Yeah. And how does he eat all those cookies?
That's why he's fat.
Yeah. Well, he should be fatter. 3 billion calories on Christmas Eve is a lot.
That hit me just right. That was so good. Okay. That's all the really good preamble stuff for getting started on this.
Yeah. It's gonna be fun.
All right. Ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. I guess we do room noise for a second.
Yeah, we could do that.
All right. So I'll do 3, 2, 1, go for room noise. This is room noise, Justin. You're the worst. Okay.
I'm sorry. I couldn't help it. I tried.
Shane keeps dancing. I'm trying to do room noise.
Robot. I'm doing
robot. Yeah.
A really bad robot too.
Yeah, it's kind of like air paddling, which makes it funnier. Okay, I'm ready to count us in.
Let's do it.
All right. 3, 2, 1. Beep. All right. Welcome to Why We Do What We Do. Hey, happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I'm going to be your miserly Grinch host, Abraham.
And I'm going to be your pre-Santa Claus, Shane.
Wonderful. We are talking about Christmas things because it's Christmas time and we want to talk about Christmas things. Now, first, we are a psychology podcast. We like to talk about all things psychology related. We're also a science podcast, and that's going to come into play in this particular discussion. Which comes with not a spoiler warning. I'm so used to hearing that. It comes with a warning. A warning. This may not be suitable for young children and those who are really bought into Christmas lore. This will be loved by Grinches. This will also be loved by people who like facts and science and history, which means it will not be loved by people who dislike facts and science, or at least people who are really committed to loving myths more than their facts and science. So just be warned, we're going to be talking about science things, which means myth things might get a rap on the head with a giant hammer.
Yes, absolutely. So if you are in a space where you have children who, or I guess maybe we'll say, if you like to continue the traditions, maybe stop the episode now.
Yes. If you would like to join us and see what we look like and see the background, and there was a lot of very fun banter that happened before we hit record on this episode. You can join us on Patreon. There you'll get, like I said, background, behind the scenes stuff, all kinds of bonus content, and there's various levels at which you can join to be a member, all that cool stuff. Also, if you would like to support us non-financially, you can leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to podcasts. And one of the biggest things, honestly, is just tell someone about us. Tell a friend.
Yeah.
Say, we should check out this podcast.
It makes a difference. It truly does.
Yeah. Since we don't really advertise for ourselves right now, that's the biggest way that we spread. So please do that.
Yeah. Yes, please.
All right, great. I think we're ready to dive into this. I'm going to let you take it away.
Yes. So St. Nicholas, Kris Kringle, Father Christmas, Grandfather Frost, Santa Claus, Wodan, Odin. Oh, so good. In this episode, we're talking about the great telephone game that is Santa Claus.
Awesome. We all know Santa Claus as the jolly, belly like a bowl full of jelly, gift-giving criminal breaking into our houses each year to give our kids gifts that aren't contingent on any specific behavior. So they get them sort of no strings attached. But what if I told you we found a link to Anthony Hopkins? You might believe me. He's old. Or Wolverine from X-Men. Or even God himself. Well, or herself. Themselves. Buckle in that big black belt of yours and join us for this wild sleigh ride into the history of Santa Claus and why we know him as the legend that he has become today.
Yes. So let's do a little background about Santa Claus. If you're not familiar, Santa Claus is a US-centric character who brings gifts to children who have been good throughout the year. He also brings coal to those on his naughty list as a reminder to be good for an entire year to get that Lego set you told your parents about.
I'm happy you mentioned the US-centric portion of this, because I remember initially thinking, wow, the whole world, that's a really big place to visit. And then it occurred to me somewhat later in life that it's very possible other countries don't really care or use this iconography or mythology very much. It seems like probably he's able to do most of his work in the Northern Hemisphere. And particularly in one continent.
He doesn't have to travel quite as much as we think.
All right. Now, with the current lore, he travels by a magical flying sled called a sleigh. Like Slayer. Just kidding. Like a sled. This is pulled by 9 magical flying reindeer type of deer. He says ho ho ho, like he's laughing, but doesn't know what sounds to make when he laughs. And then he breaks into your home using your chimney. So if you don't have a chimney, don't worry, he will get in anyway. Don't worry about how. Just gonna Jimmy the lock or something.
Yeah, he's going to get in there, and we'll talk about maybe some of his magical powers that he has later too. So to thank him, what you should do is you should leave milk and cookies out overnight without worrying about the dairy going bad or the cookies going stale. He won't care. He'll eat them anyway.
Yeah, stomach of steel, that guy.
The dude does not believe in botulism. That's for sure.
So the question we really wanted to ask is, where does this idea of Santa Claus come from? This has not been with us since the beginning of time. There is an origin story here. Now, there are a few bits of information that we need to cover to understand who this jolly burglar is, who in Florida would have been shot down by now, given the stand your ground laws that we have in that state. So let's get started.
All right. So the most popular origin story of Santa Claus is going to be St. Nicholas. Now, the story starts with St. Nicholas, a Greek bishop that during the 4th century was known for giving gifts to kids and like actually providing pretty extravagant gifts to kids and to the poor. So a lot of the pictures of St. Nicholas he's like kind of the patron saint of giving, but he's also the patron saint of some other things. But in paintings and drawings that you see of St. Nick, he's portrayed as wearing red robes with white trim, suspicious, I think so, right? The guy he looks a little bit like a skinny Santa Claus when you look at some of the artistic renderings of him.
One of the sources that I was looking at indicated that it's possible that the idea of gift giving was attributed to him more exaggerated after he died, and
Mhm.
that sort of what gift giving he may have done then became a much more elaborate than what he actually did in life.
Yeah.
But that's not to disparage what we also know he did in life. One specific story said that Saint Nicholas um, gave gifts to 3 young women so they would not return to their life of sex work. So he had his
Yeah.
motives.
Yeah. What he would do is he would drop bags of gold into their window at night. It's not weird at all. Instead of just like
Where did
just
he get
bringing
the
a bag of
gold?
gold. Well, that's a whole other thing too. So he would drop it happened for 3 days. He would drop these bags of gold into their window at night. And it was enough to pay off the dowry so that the father could pay it off so that the daughters didn't have to go into prostitution. So that's, yeah. Where's he got the gold and why is he sneaking in at night? Why didn't he just drop it off?
Wow. I did, unrelated to that, but I did hear that some of the gifts he actually did shove into people's stockings. Who knows if that was a thing, but that was one
It'd be
source that
great.
indicated
It'd be
that
great
he
if
did
they
that.
were wearing them. Like if he he just stuffed into people's socks while he was wearing them.
In
Like,
a
what if St.
crowd, he's
Nicholas
just
is
like
real weird?
shoving little gifts into their socks.
Here's your chocolate, kid. Yeah. So Saint Nicholas of Myra, or Nicholas of Bari, or Nicholas the Wonder Worker, is considered the patron saint of many groups, including sailors, merchants, archers, reformed thieves, prostitutes, children, brewers, pawnbrokers, unmarried people, and students. The dude was like a saint generalist, it seems. Like you just kind of like, inch deep, mild wide. I'm gonna be a patron saint of anything. I know just enough to get away with it.
He's got his fingers in all the pots. I also did hear that Myra is essentially where modern day Turkey is now.
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, cool. Not much is really known about his life. He was reported to be very religious from an early age, which obviously continued well into adulthood as he was able to adopt or maybe was assigned the moniker of saint. There's that.
Yeah. And eventually he was imprisoned and released and imprisoned again. And you have to remember this is all all kind of occurring during the reigns of Constantine, the movement of Islam into Eastern Europe. There's a lot of like really wild history that's happening around this time, around where he was at. So, there were times where he was a criminal for just being Catholic. And then there were times where he was a criminal for probably breaking into people's houses and leaving gold bars.
All right. So important to note right now that, as you mentioned, this is one of the most popular pieces that people turned to, is the idea of this is where the sort of origin of Santa Claus comes from. And that is in part true. So we've sort of have just talked about one part of what the modern folklore, American folklore, and maybe North American folklore of Santa Claus comes from. The idea of Saint Nicholas, it's apocryphal, but I've heard that some people have said that the name Santa Claus came from misunderstanding Saint Nicholas as how it was being pronounced by people of the European accent. Then Saint Nicholas, and they're like Santa Claus is what they heard. And again, that's apocryphal. Who knows? But that's one piece of this. So we didn't have Santa Claus. We didn't even really have Saint Nick, not as we'd recognize him today. But one of the pieces of the puzzle is there. We have Saint Nicholas. Now we have Father Christmas.
Yeah. So originally Father Christmas looked like a dollar store Jesus with green fur-lined robes. And he was considered a larger man. But this is one of the first appearances of this type of character that kind of embodied a period of time and all that. As being larger. He was well built. He wore robes, pretty extravagant, but he was known to be the spirit of Christmas.
So was this is a mythological figure right now, Father Christmas?
This is yes.
Okay.
This is a mythological. This is like a storytelling component.
Okay, so this myth began during the reign of Henry VIII, where he was considered the spirit of peace, joy, food, and wine. One of those things is not peace.
Yes.
But anyway, there's that.
Yeah. And since England no longer celebrated the festival days of St. Nicholas, because there was a period of time where they would celebrate around December 6th, they needed a new symbol. And so originally, the feast for St. Nicholas was held on December 6th of the month. And a lot of times you're going to see a lot of within this story and kind of the history. And maybe one day we'll just do a whole deep dive on Christmas in particular, because that is also very interesting, but very convoluted. around this time, you've got the winter, kind of this changing of the seasons. You've got winter solstice. You've got all these things that are happening. And so St. Nicholas's feast was held around the same time, December 6th. So it made sense to have a new December celebration because England wasn't celebrating St. Nicholas anymore. Christmas was already celebrated on the December 25th date. So at that point in time, it aligned with the winter solstice. So it only made sense that white folks put their own stamp on the day by giving it a white cisgender mascot like Father Christmas.
Sure. Okay, so that's another component here, component 2. Let's move on to component 3, which is some of the European folklore. Now here comes this character Santa Claus, based out of the Netherlands and Belgium. And here we see a character who is kind of based on St. Nicholas, one who gives gifts. Again, we're not quite at Santa Claus yet. We haven't got there.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, Santa Claus is still pretty pervasive in the culture. Like, so he has not been replaced by Santa Claus. He is still the prominent gift giving figure in these areas. So
gotcha.
yeah, so when you see Santa Claus and you see Santa Claus, when you see him, he's got a full white beard. He wears white and red. He rides a horse named Amerigo. So he doesn't have reindeer, but he's got a horse. And so, but he looks like kind of a if you've watched Loki, how there's variants of Loki, he's like a variant of Santa Claus.
Okay. Now, because most countries don't have this fabled idea that someone can exist in a billion places at once, he had some assistants. Now, these were not elves in this lore. And one of them, Schmutzli, carries a broom that he spanks children with if they are naughty. So you've got your Christmas discipline in your lore right in there. Did I say that right? Schmutzli?
That's how I understood it. Yes.
Okay, great. So, maybe it's Schmutzli, but I like Schmutzli.
I was gonna say Schmutzli, but I feel like Schmutzli is a little bit more endearing.
Okay, great. So, if there's an umlaut over the U, then we got Schmutzli.
Everything I found did not have an umlaut, so
maybe I messed up.
We can still go with Schmutzli though.
Okay,
that's fine. So you're kind of seeing how all these components together become like this kind of mishmash of these character traits of what we know as Santa Claus. But here's probably my favorite part of this is when we get into paganism and Wodan. So prior to all of those other white people, kind of putting their stamp on this, we had Germanic people who celebrated an event called Yule. And so Yule was originally celebrated as a festival time that was thought to be connected to Odin and the wild hunt. So this is where it gets like into Norse mythology and all the storytelling around this, which is like just so much fun.
Sorry. What did you do? Did you do this sub bullet point here?
I didn't do the sub bullet point.
Okay. I was trying to put my phone on doing its silent thing. Anyway. Okay. Beep. So this wild hunt consists of, as you might imagine, there's a pack of hunters, often led by Odin, but sometimes led by other figures. And the souls of past hunters, sometimes made up of the dead, fairies, or elves, are also a part of this. Now they're led on a chase. They're chasing some unknown game that they're hunting, probably humans. And this usually brings on the seasons change and explains the howling winds, because that is Odin and his followers on the hunt.
Yes, absolutely. And so within that, Wodan is also linked to the season. And so part of this kind of changing weather pattern and all that's attributed to the gods is attributed partially to Wodan. Wodan was the Germanic sky god, but he was also a war god. He was also a fairly violent god because he was not just a god of war. He was a god of war victory. He was the god of hanging and was considered death and blood sacrifice. Specifically, Wodan symbolized death and blood sacrifice. So that's the god that's kind of linked to this particular season and this particular series of festivals that are celebrated.
Okay, so is this really important? And if so, how is Wodan important?
Yeah, well, Wodan was described as having a long white beard, would ride a horse or a reindeer, and would dress in fanciful robes. He was also considered a gift bringer and predates St. Nicholas. So remember that part? Remember that part where we said that white people take things that are cool from other people and put their own mayonnaise spin on it? This is one of those situations.
Are the gifts severed heads of the people he's slain?
Could be. I mean, that might be the gift of victory, right?
Okay. All right, fun. Now, question for you. What does this all have to do with Santa Claus?
I'm so glad you asked. So when these tales came to the United States originally, you can imagine people were not stoked. If you're not aware, the U.S. used to be a fairly judgy Puritan place, totally different from what we see in 2021,
Yeah, it
right? We're
used to be.
way more.
Unfortunately, it's
Yeah, it used to
different.
be. Yeah, we've definitely grown out of that. But the idea is that you're talking about pagan folklore. You're talking about, what's the word, polytheistic beliefs. You're looking at all these different situations that are kind of going against what was believed to be, standard Christian fare and puritanical leanings in religious practices. So when all this came over, it was like, no, we can't do this. We can't do this anymore.
Yeah, and however the tales managed to make their way over here via people coming from other cultures or whatever the route, they started to change. And this is kind of one of the few points in history where we can actually point to the invention of a new mythology. Like, mostly we think of these myths and they just sort of evolve and change slowly over time as tales get retold and amended and updated and that sort of thing. This one, we've got a pretty clear break. We have, boom, the someone who was inspired by these tales is going to rewrite them out of whole cloth and create a brand new character, have a publication copyright date and everything. And that brings us to where we are today. So we have, we're really going back into the 1800s, and there's a few main contributors to the people who took the Santa Claus spin. And after just a few iterations, we have the Santa Claus that has been with us now for over a century. And it starts in 1809. Washington Irving published a book called Knickerbocker's History of New York. And in this writing, we see the first portrayal of St. Nicholas as pipe smoking, which he wasn't before, and a flying spirit. So we have the gift of flight now. And we have retained the gift giving, or however that was maybe embellished over time. That he gives gifts to these good kids and converts the bad kids to be good, and thus there is no more crime.
Yes, that's how we got here. Now, real quick, Abraham, we should do a vocabulary for this. What's a knickerbocker?
Wow, that was great. I have no idea.
It's literally knickers or a New Yorker. Let's
okay.
Look it up.
People or objects from Manhattan. Okay. Or what was the other thing you said?
They're knickers. It was short for knickers, which knickers are loose fitting trousers gathered at the knee or calf.
Okay. I don't like that word, but okay.
Beep. Well, trousers or knickers?
Knickers. It's way too close to another word I'm not comfortable saying.
Yeah. That's fair.
Okay. Beep. All right. So a knickerbocker is just a word to describe a person or thing that is from New York. And a very important sound in the middle of this word, the hard k sound, knickerbocker. I want to make sure that that's there, because the first word can also refer to a pair of pants that has been used before. You maybe have heard of that. But mostly we're talking about these knickerbockers means from New York. That's it. But I like it.
It is a fun one. Well, it explains why we have the New York Knicks as a basketball team.
Yes.
And also, I just like that the book is titled New Yorker's History of New York.
Right. Which, I mean, it couldn't be anything else.
Yeah, that's true. So in 1821, a poem titled The Children's Friend was published anonymously. And in this poem, we see the character portrayed by Irving. We talked about that St. Nicholas portrayal of Irving shift into a tale about the actual Santa Claus. And so this is the first appearance of the Santa that we know and understand today. This is like his real first, this is the moment. And in this poem, he rode a wagon pulled by a single reindeer.
Yeah, so we're getting really close, but we're about to break the seal and open up the most, the second to last, the penultimate iteration of Santa. And this is an 1821 poem. Nope, I skipped one. Wrong one. Beep. This is in, hold on, this time somewhere.
It's either 1822 or 1823.
I think I had
the sites that I had it at 1822.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Beep. So in 1822 or 1823, Clement Clark Moore, I think he was an English teacher or something like that, he was some kind of professor, I think. He wrote a story titled, quote, A Visit from, I'm not going to quote, beep. He wrote a story titled A Visit from St. Nicholas. And in this is where we get our most Santa Claus, our most core Santa Claus lore. You've absolutely heard the story, but you'll more likely know the story as The Night Before Christmas, which it really has remained mostly unchanged since then. Originally, the story was written for children and eventually published anonymously. But apparently, this went the way of the ALS challenge, Chocolate Rain, and Tommy Lee and Pamela Anderson sex tape. It went viral and made its way out there where everybody could reach it. But so this is where we get fun note here. Originally, he was drawn as riding a broom and looking like George Washington. But mostly in the story, he's described as, I think this is where we get the sleigh. We get we have further elaboration on the pipe. We have him mostly wearing red at this point. He's got the long white beard. He's not particularly large yet. He's about to get there. I think this is where we get more lore about this is where we get our naughty and nice list. I believe came from this. So all of this sort of gives us our next big push into Santa lore.
The story also gave us the reindeer. Like the 8 reindeer specifically. So Rudolph is still kind of ostracized. He's still being bullied somewhere, and he hasn't made the story yet. That's we get to revisionist history where we can add him later. Now at this point we have the words, we have some imagery, but then Thomas Nast gave us the actual characterization that we see of our old chum. So we see Nast was a political cartoonist that ended up coming up with a concept design for Santa. So like the first like cartoon drawing with the pipe, with the red suit, with the toys, with the hat, with the beard and all that stuff really came from Thomas Nast. And his first image of Santa showed up in Harper's Weekly in 1863. So it was many, many, many years after the night before Christmas was written that we saw this actual characterization.
Yeah, I mean, a couple decades. I mean, obviously that's a long time. In retrospect, it doesn't seem terribly long, but I think if you're living it, it's going to seem like a very long time. Yeah, trying to think forward a couple decades from now, finally adding to a character that we currently have. And actually, I was just checking my notes, and I had that this is where the naughty nice list came from. But also, Thomas Nast is where we got the idea of Santa coming from the North Pole. I believe this is where we got Santa his helpers. We got a little bit more green in there. This is where Santa became very large and longer beard. Pretty much all of the most iconic features of Santa Claus and the lore around Santa Claus basically cemented in place with Nast's publication.
Yeah. And then capitalism steps in 1931. I know. Yeah. It's, welcome to America, folks. Welcome to America. So in 1931, Haddon Sundblom illustrated an ad campaign for a little company that you might have heard of called Coca-Cola. The first image of the Claus is what we truly know today. Like really the image that we see in all the malls and everything. Red coat, white trim, black belt, black boots, soft red cap, morbidly obese or jolly, I guess. White beard, wild eyebrows, rosy cheeks, and a red button nose. That is the image. And when you see the Coke ad, you're like, that is it. And the thing that I kind of was thinking about this as I was putting my notes together was like, it is amazing how much of our culture has been shaped by advertising. And like, I mean, truly, like the imagery that we have, like the lore, the myths, and some of that stuff is shaped by a really good ad.
So isn't that an argument for capitalism then, Shane?
I mean, it's not, you're not wrong. Now, Santa seems wholesome. Santa's the good guy. Santa takes care of his deers. He definitely doesn't abuse his elves in the workshop.
Everybody loves Santa.
Everybody loves Santa, except for one person in particular, which when you hear his name, you're not surprised. So Santa's not actually without controversy. Santa's ruffled some feathers.
Who's going to hate Santa Claus? Well, did you think we'd end up talking about Joseph Stalin here? Apparently, Stalin hated Santa
so much.
Yeah, this further proves what kind of villain the dude was. During his rule, the celebration did not actually include Christmas.
I should say the Soviet Union.
Oh, Soviet Union. Okay. Okay, I gotcha.
Sorry.
Beep. During his rule, the Soviet Union did not celebrate Christmas. It did not do the gift or the gift bringer of Christmas. Did not do any of the anything Santa related was strictly forbidden.
Yeah, he was not thrilled. Like Santa shows up and he's like, no,
The
he's not
Putin of
doing
his
that.
day.
He really was. Now, I mean, Putin's got a lot to work up to. Hopefully he doesn't. But, but as morale in the country started to decline, Stalin needed a bit of a booster. So forever going his own way, he opted to use Grandfather Frost. Okay. And in this, Grandfather Frost brought gifts, but not on Christmas. His gifts were for New Year's. So he rang in the new year with gifts. So you had Grandfather Frost who wore blue instead of red to differentiate.
And brought vodka.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Following World War II, American troops would share images of Santa as a symbol of American giving and generosity. So, hey, look, I know we've invaded your country and probably injured or killed a lot of people who didn't deserve us, but we brought you freedom. We're generous and you're welcome.
It is astounding to me where it's like that's the imagery you want to bring. The world. So
welcome to freedom.
Welcome to freedom.
Choke on
Here's
it.
your Santa Claus. Yes, he'll break into your house and give you things. So the thing is with all this is that Santa hasn't changed very much since then. I mean, truly, he hasn't really altered or changed since then. He still brings gifts. He still eats cookies. He still lives in the North Pole. I mean, all of those things have remained pretty steady for the last, almost century. I mean, if you're talking about 1931 being the Coke ad, 90 years, he's looked the same. So, I mean, exactly the same. So, except for maybe he's become more culturally diverse. And so there's maybe some more representation with Santa Claus outside of that. Now, there's a lot of stuff that goes on with Santa that everybody asks. It's physically impossible for him to do the things he does and all that stuff. And so we want to share some facts about like exactly how impossible it would be for Santa Claus to exist in a world where people want gifts one time a year. So first, Santa has a list. We know he's got the naughty and nice list. In order for his list to be complete, to include every child in the world, it would need to be 8.82 million pages long to have every child's name listed.
And that's just children.
That's just children. Could you imagine if he puts like other people on the naughty list? No thanks.
Yeah.
And that's just on Earth. We don't even know if Santa visits other planets.
Right. Yeah. Busy dude.
We're making drastic assumptions about his travel radius.
Due to time zones, if you were to try and strategically plan this out so that Santa could actually hit every house on Christmas Day, he has 31 hours to complete this run. Now, given the number of homes and time available, you would need to complete 822.6 visits per second to accomplish this task. Because remember, he's not just doling out gifts, he's also doling out punishments. He's got like coal and stockings and stuff like that.
Yeah, like and he's also eating cookies.
Job. Yeah, I know, that's right. Needs to stop and eat. He's wolfing down 822.6 cookies per second.
The man is an animal.
I mean, not even an animal could do that. This is definitely godlike behavior. We're in that territory
These are my favorite types of facts about this stuff too. Like I love this so much. So now, given that he has to travel so fast, you hear he has to have 822.6 visits per second. His sleigh would need to be built to travel 650 miles per second. This means that he would be traveling at 3,000 times the speed of light, which would be impossible to handle unless he were some kind of mutant. We'll talk about that later.
Yeah. All right. Now, he's also carrying with him quite a lot of weight, not just his girth, mind you, because he's carrying these presents. So it's estimated that his sleigh would wear somewhere in the ballpark of 321,300 tons and would require approximately 214,200 reindeer to pull it to ensure that he was able actually to move from point A to point B. Traveling, mind you, 3,000 times the speed of light, which is also going to require an amount of energy that is hard to comprehend.
It is just such a flabbergasting level of energy, and like just the stuff he's doing is just bonkers. All right, now you might ask why Santa's fat. We're going to tell you if he ate every cookie in the homes of U.S. visits alone, just the U.S., because we're going to get into some of the other traditions that are shared out there. If he ate all the cookies in the homes of the U.S. visits alone, he would consume 3 billion calories in an evening. 3 billion calories.
The thought that occurred to me is that he must have a toilet on the North Pole that has a black hole inside of it.
That's the only way. That's the only way.
This is going to be such a problem when he gets done with his marathon race around the world.
Yeah, that's why he waits a year, because he's got to work through all of that. Oh my God. Well, to be fair though, he probably doesn't eat the vegan cookies. We know if Santa's US centric, he doesn't eat the vegan cookies.
That's true. Yeah, shaved a few calories off there.
Yeah, he's staunchly anti-vegan for some reason.
Okay, so anyway, this has been the why we do what we do science fun fact corner.
Okay, so there's some other things we had to talk about with Santa that are also like fun, kind of interesting tidbits. Why does Santa live in the North Pole? Well, in Canada, he resides in the postal code H0H0H0, which just so everybody knows, spells ho ho ho.
Right. In December 2008, Santa was officially declared a Canadian citizen, much to the chagrin of Marjorie Taylor Greene. However, there is a city in Alaska named the North Pole with a Santa Claus house. So there's that. And again, this is lore, just to make sure we're clear on this. This came from the Thomas Nast iteration, where we got sort of the final nail in the coffin of Santa lore, is the idea that he lives in the North Pole. So those are things, I guess.
Yeah. So another question that comes up is, why does he enter through chimneys? Well, when pagans were celebrating the wild hunt, Odin would bring gifts by entering the houses through the chimneys. So he did it because Odin did it. He did it because Anthony Hopkins was Odin, and Odin did this, right? So like the idea of like just entering a house came from a Norse god, not from anything else, really.
Yeah, you can see where the line of reasoning got to, well, how is he getting into people's houses to give them gifts? And they're like, well, Odin went through chimneys, we'll just do that.
And he kind of looks like Odin.
Yeah, problem solved.
Yeah.
Well, in part, he was partially inspired by Odin, as you had mentioned. So there's
but he has more eyes. He has more eyes than Odin.
All right, now, what is this whole deal with milk and cookies? Why is he so obsessed with milk and cookies? He's actually not everywhere. It depends on what region he is visiting.
Mm-hmm. So in Britain and Australia, he prefers beer and mince pies. So he's like more of a savory treat there.
Wasted.
Yeah, just keep this in mind. He is hammered while he's flying 3,000 times the speed of light.
I can't even imagine, like, if this is a shot glass full of beer, we're still talking about like hundreds of thousands of gallons. Like this poor guy's health is really in decline.
Well, let's say he's doing a shot glass. What's a shot glass? 4 ounces?
Sure.
We'll say 4 ounces. No, we'll reduce it. 2 ounces. So it's 2 ounces times 882 visits per second. So he's drinking 1,644 ounces per second.
I believe that is at least 100 gallons per second. If my math is correct.
He's got to be 3 sheets of the wind. He is just out of his mind. He is just toasted.
When you're a god, apparently you can kind of do anything. I mean, the powers that he has are pretty astounding. This is pretty good.
Yeah.
All right, now, so we mentioned the beer and mince pies. In Sweden, he gets rice porridge with cinnamon and sugar. You got the carbs and sweet in there. That's good.
Yeah, you gotta have something to absorb the gallons of beer that he's drinking. But when he's in Ireland, of course it's Guinness. Of course it has to be Guinness. Why wouldn't it be?
Once more, his eyeballs are floating.
Now, I think one of my favorite.
So funny.
I think one of my favorite things, though, about Santa Claus is, and we kind of alluded to this, is he's considered to be the most powerful mutant in the Marvel comic universe. So,
wow,
just keep this in mind. He is a mutant in the same universe that Captain America, and Iron Man exist in.
So
his
are we getting
powers,
a Santa Claus movie anytime soon?
I hope so. I mean, we're getting to that point. Like, we're going to get to a point where they're going to go through all the iterations of all the characters. Hopefully, a Marvel version of Santa Claus shows up. So now his powers include longevity, levitation, altering the appearance of himself or other objects, generating snow, determining naughty and nice, like a weak Ghost Rider, like he's got kind of like an optimistic penance stare. Change the size of objects, he can teleport, and he's got a whole host of other things. His strength is augmented on Christmas Eve, it doubles. He has use to a variety of supernatural artifacts, kind of like Doctor Strange, and he uses charm successfully, kind of like Star Fox, except he's not like assaulting people. So he's not able to use his powers in battle, which is why he never fights alongside the X-Men, but he is considered an Omega level mutant in the Marvel universe, and I love that so much.
All right, I have a few quick other tidbits about his superpowers, not even from the character Santa Claus, from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but just the general idea of Santa Claus. Sorry, where'd my list go? Sorry, I Googled the superpowers of Santa Claus. Omega level mutant.
He's an Omega level mutant.
Oh my god,
Professor X is also an Omega level mutant.
I need to share this picture of Santa Claus that I just found. It is the most glorious thing ever. Have you seen this by any chance?
That is absurd.
This is the John Cena Santa Claus.
John Cena Claus.
John Cena Claus. That's awesome. Okay. Damn it. I want an actual just fucking list. Okay. Let me just pick a few of these. There's a lot of things in here. All right. Beep. So I found this one source that described Santa Claus as a demi-archangel saint with a bunch of magical powers that includes things like enhanced strength, speed, definitely have speed, agility, and senses.
So fast.
Yeah. Hold on. Let's see if I can find this. Okay. Because of his ability to know naughty and nice, that means that he has extraordinary access to the human soul. Let's see.
Like Ghost Rider?
Yes, exactly. Okay. Beep. He has some level of psychokinetic power, omnikinetic power, and even maybe the Omniverse Lord. He's got precognition, healing powers, teleportation, chronokinesis, meaning he can time travel. He's got retrocognition, telepathy, hypnosis, zoopathy, astral projection, and levitation. He's also got weather manipulation. There's very little that he can't do.
Yeah, he's kind of like he is just straight up a god. He may be God.
He's significantly more powerful than how God is generally described. At least some of the demigods, like some of the prophets, have been described. So Santa Claus is an extraordinarily powerful being who apparently loves to just shotgun cookies and beer at lightning fast
warp
rates.
Speed.
Yeah. Exactly.
The dude likes to party.
That's right. Party at a rate of speed that would literally shred the fabric of reality.
Yeah, this dude is above all, the end of all that is.
Yeah.
So I mean, the thing is like, we don't really, I mean, this is where Santa Claus comes from. Santa Claus came from a study of like polytheistic practices and just some general celebrations and festivals that went to kind of worshiping the gods and pleasing the gods and kind of doing that, like ringing in the winter solstice, and then turned into a figurehead for gift giving. I mean, you had these religious practices that kind of shaped and more, not religious practices, but you had these practices that were shaped and morphed by saints and by, you know, Christian religion kind of coming in and changing the narrative, and then bringing in capitalism, which is, you know, at this point in time, its own form of religion. And now you've got this really interesting figurehead who symbolizes kind of the changing of season, but the gift giving good that is, you know, that's occurring in the world, I guess.
So I think that puts us at a good place to sort of hit the take homes. If you are we
Yeah.
there? Okay, cool.
Yeah, I think we could do that.
And you sort of, I think, kicked it off, which one of them I think, as you said, is the fact that one of my main take home points from this whole discussion is that Santa Claus is, in the current modern iteration of Santa Claus that is recognized, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, particularly in North America, Santa Claus has been co-opted from other cultures and sort of just turned into a new myth. It's just new lore that came from existing lore. And we have like a publication date on which that occurred. The sort of four major events that happened, kind of 3 or 4 major events that happened that cemented the current Santa Claus as is, but it's remained steady for over a century.
Yeah, and I think another sticking point that I would say is that, you know, where this might come from some kind of spiritual or religious practices, it has moved away from that and become kind of like a pop culture thing. So there's this really interesting shift where like Santa Claus is kind of non-denominational if you really think about it. He's not like adhering to the laws of physics or a Christian God. So like he's not really doing, I mean, it might be regionally or culturally appropriate, but it doesn't really have kind of the religious tidings that like other practices might, or other figureheads might have.
Well, and even as you said, even with the fact that people might be like, oh, Santa Claus is getting all secular. Yes, and the religious I guess association of Santa Claus was pagan,
Right.
almost up and like and through the existence of Santa Claus being a Christmas figure, because at no point did it describe any affiliation with Christianity or Christian values, really. Like it was adopted
Right.
from all these other pagan religions and whatnot. So the extent to which it was religious, it was pagan religion. It was various, you know, what is it called? Not monotheistic. It was the opposite of that. Polytheistic. That's right.
Yeah.
Various polytheistic religions around the world. And so moving it secular, I think, makes it even, I guess, more digestible. But yeah, I think that's an interesting piece of this. Another one I think that's always just fun for me, a major take home point, is that Santa is like got some pretty amazing godlike powers. I mean, it's hilarious. And that's why when we break down the science of this, it just had me in tears laughing, literally in tears laughing. I didn't come through on the podcast, but because of like the idea that what would be the implication in reality were this being to exist and do the things that they do. And it is like staggering what the implications of that would be.
I feel like if it were like a mortal, like it would drive them mad. They would not be able. It's like it would be like it's like that scene in Ragnarok where Thor is traveling to meet the Grand Master and he's just screaming as he's like speeding through the universe. Like that's, I feel like how I would respond to that.
Indeed. So, any other take-home points for you?
I don't have any other take-home points. Santa rules. Santa is fantastic, and my retirement job will be a mall Santa at some point in time.
you're definitely on
my way.
Yeah. You need to pack on, you know, a couple 100,000 more pounds, I think. You'll be good.
I just need to eat 3 billion calories. I think I'll be okay.
Oh God, that'd be some vomit inducing.
Oh God, yeah. Oh, it's the worst.
All right, well, then let's do some quick recommendations.
So
I'm grabbing my thank you list because I need to update it for the new list that's on here. All right. I'm going to recommend a show that I'm not sure when this came out on Netflix, but I just saw it recently. So this is a Netflix movie. Well, not movie, sorry. It's a miniseries. It's a limited time miniseries. It's doing a single run. It's by the writer and director, I think, who did Haunting of Hill House, Haunting of Bly Manor, and this is called Midnight Mass. And I don't want to spoil very much about it. I'm going to say it is sort of horror-ish themed like the other two. What I will say is I think the acting is incredible. The directing is phenomenal. And it is just a very, very well told story. And the director really trusts his actors and also gives them a lot of room to really shine. And I think that really carries the show. I found it very engaging, and just an awesome story. So I'm recommending Midnight Mass. This is kind of scary, so this might not be appropriate for all the audiences. There's a lot of sort of creepy parts and elements of it, and there's definitely some gore and some swearing, so keep that in mind. But really no nudity. So if your big thing is nudity,
There you
then you're
go.
probably fine.
Yeah, then you're okay.
There is some trigger warning for those people. There is some amount of animal torture-ish things that happen. Most of it's off screen, but that's just something that I want to warn people about. But anyway, really good show. I recommend. You can find it on Netflix. Midnight Mass.
All right, it's been on my list for a while to check out, so I'm excited to check that out, and I'm stoked.
Cool.
All right, so mine is, because this is a Christmas theme and because it's a Christmas season, I made a playlist for you that's full of punk Christmas songs. It's called "I Don't Want a Christmas," so we will.
I don't want a Christmas playlist.
I don't want a Christmas playlist. That's what it is.
Okay.
And so it is. It's a playlist that is made up of just a bunch of like random punk songs. A bunch of like nice little gems, like Christopher Lee, who has the song Jingle Hell, or Lemmy doing Run Run Rudolph is a lot of fun.
And you were telling me before we hit record, this is Christopher Lee of Lord of the Rings fame, the actor.
Yes, Christopher Lee, the actor, Dracula.
Wow.
The guy who at one time played Dracula is he plays metal. It's a metal album. It's a full metal Christmas album. So anyway, it's a bunch of random songs. It's got stuff like Mighty Mighty Bosstones, No Doubt, Bad Religion, trying to think, Piebald is on there. Like a lot of really fun bands are on there.
Nice.
Yeah, the Misfits. So it's a nice variety. So we will share that with you and make sure you have that. It's a fun little playlist that we put together.
Fun. All right. So the link to that Spotify playlist will be in the show notes for this episode. You can check out more about it there. And before we wrap up, of course, I want to say thank you to the people who helped make this happen. These are our amazing Patreon supporters. We have Amanda, Joshua, Justin, Justine, Costia, Layla, Megan, Mike M, Mike T, and Shauna. Of course, thank you to my amazing team, without whom I would not be able to do this show. Without us, we're all together, so they're all amazing. That is Justin, who does our audio engineering, Amber, Britt, Selena, Kyle, Allen, and thank you, Shane, you put together the notes for this particular episode. So
of course,
if you all liked this, then you have Shane to thank. I would like to, before I close out, I'd like to invite everyone to submit any questions you might have for us, personal or otherwise. I can't guarantee we'll answer them all, but I kind of had this idea that it would be fun. Just dropping this on you for the first time. I kind of had the idea this would be fun. If you all have some questions, to send them in, and we might read and answer some questions on here.
Yeah.
But otherwise, if you would like to tell us about your something that we maybe missed about Santa lore, some particular Christmas or Santa tradition that you like to celebrate, or some piece of Santa lore that you have now adopted into your life, if you'd like to share with us a playlist you like, or a TV show on Netflix that you're into, or tell us about your favorite overpowered superhero in the comics, you should reach out to us. We're available on all the social media platforms, but you can also email us directly at info@wwd.podcast.com. You can also just email us to say hey. We really like hearing from people. And so, send us your questions, send us your thoughts, your recommendations, corrections, anything like that. Looking for some ideas for ways that we can get you guys a little engaged and all that.
Yeah, absolutely. We absolutely, and we genuinely love to hear from you.
We really, really do. Okay. I think that's all I have. Do you have anything else before we wrap up on this?
Nope. Just everybody please have a safe holiday. Drink Silk Nog, and enjoy yourself over the next couple days.
Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. This is Abraham.
And this is Shane.
We're out.
See ya. All right. We did it.
We did it. That was so fun.
We did it. Dude, I'm so glad that you...
And so
I'm so glad that landed. Like that was fucking great. Just thinking of the sheer ridiculousness.
Yeah. Just like, I didn't say this, but I was like, it's just like a fire hose of Guinness, just like into his mouth.
the idea that he is like, I love the image of him just being very drunk, very fast, and just throwing toys, just like ah! Like the whole time, because that's the only way that he would be able to survive, like get through that.
Yeah, while shotgunning enormous amounts of like cookies and beer between stops, maybe vomiting out profusely the amount that he's consumed. It's just Santa vomit that's out there.
Oh, so good, so good.
All right, that was super fun. Yay.
I'll get this uploaded. The other two are already uploaded, so this will be uploaded in a second, and then I should be able to record 2 episodes next week too. So depending on which notes we have.
Yeah, rad. Super exciting. I don't know. Let me look at my calendar really quick. I don't actually remember what we're doing. There's
and I'll pick another episode too, because I know I got to pick another topic. So
okay. And I had some I added recently. I was all jazzed about.
Cool.
I kind of wanted to. I don't know about you. When you were in college, did you ever have like a preacher guy go like stand on the quad and like yell about saving people's souls and shit?
Mm-hmm.
I kind of was.
It happens all the time in Daytona too.
Okay, I was kind of like we've had a few of those in Reno, not like a ton, but there was always a handful when I was an undergrad in particular. And I kind of wanted like I was thinking about doing one on them. Like, who the fuck are these people? What are they doing?
Yeah, like street preachers.
Yeah, street preachers, exactly. Yeah. So I'm still pulling up my list here.
I like it.
Oh, God, it's taking forever to load. Zencaster now is doing a thing apparently where they might allow you. It might do auto transcribing of your podcasts. That might actually be a thing we.
Oh, cool.
Look into, yeah.
I know Buzzsprout does that, but it's not very accurate. It doesn't. Okay. It doesn't do anything that's like useful.
Okay.
Unless like somebody sat down and like actually went in and edited it.
Good to know. That sounds like a lot of work. I think the fact that my computer is trying to both export this file and we're still recording too. So let's take a look at our Patreons. Bye Patreons.
Bye Patreons.